Welcome back, everybody. We're going deep today
Mhm.
into a topic that, honestly, most of us probably don't think about all that much.
Very true.
Electrical safety.
Right.
Like outlets and wiring and all this stuff that's kind of just there.
It is, yeah.
We found this university lecture on it. Really interesting stuff. You might be surprised by how much there is to it.
Oh, definitely. It's like, you see an outlet, you plug something in, it works. But the whole system behind it is actually pretty complex.
Exactly. And this lecture, it starts by asking, why should we even care? Like, what's the big deal?
Right, right.
And they make this point about, get this, moral and ethical obligations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might not be thinking about ethics when you're plugging in your phone charger.
Sure.
But think about it this way. When you hire an electrician, you want someone who really knows their stuff right.
Absolutely. Someone who's going to do the job right safely. You're trusting them with your home, your family's safety.
Exactly. And it's their ethical duty to make sure they're doing everything by the book, protecting everyone. It's a big responsibility.
No doubt.
And speaking of responsibility, this lecture dives into all sorts of dangers with electricity. The first one they list is that it's invisible.
Yep. Can't see it, can't smell it.
Right. No smell, no sound, just kind of lurking there. It's a little freaky when you think about it, like a silent threat.
Exactly. And that makes it even more dangerous.
Yeah.
We're naturally cautious of things we can see that might hurt us.
No, yeah.
But with electricity, it's different. That's why it's so important to really understand the hazards, even if we can't, literally see them.
Okay, so it's invisible and dangerous. But what kind of dangers? Specifically, they mention faulty installations, which makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
And unqualified people messing with electrical systems. I guess that's why it's so important to hire a licensed electrician. Yeah.
Absolutely. They've got the training, the experience. It's not just connecting wires. It's about, understanding the science behind it, the safety codes, being able to spot a potential problem before it becomes a disaster.
Right. Because you wouldn't want, someone who just watched a YouTube video rewiring your whole house.
Definitely not.
But then they bring up these less obvious things, like static electricity from clothing. Wait, that's electricity too?
It is, just on a smaller scale, right?
Okay.
It's not going to, knock you out usually.
Okay, good.
But it can be a fire hazard, especially in certain environments, like where you've got flammable materials.
Wow, never thought about that. So, okay, it's not just power lines and outlets we got to watch out for. It's everywhere.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then they get into safety measures, which, this is where it gets more practical. They mention fuses and circuit breakers, which I think most of us have seen those in our homes.
Oh, yeah. Familiar sight.
But it goes deeper than that.
That's right. Oh, definitely. It's like, layers of protection. You have your own responsibility, like recognizing hazards, using things properly.
Right.
But then you've also got these systems in place to help protect us, like fuses, circuit breakers. They're kind of like safety valves.
Oh.
They cut off the flow if something goes wrong. It's like, imagine your car, you've got your seatbelt handy, you've got airbags working together.
I see what you mean, like a backup system. Okay, that makes sense. But there's even more, right? I mean, the lecture mentions all these Australian standards. It's a whole thing.
It is. Like whole rule books dedicated to electrical safety. They cover, everything. How you install wiring, how you test equipment, even like the specific markings on products to show they meet the standards. They take it seriously here.
That's actually pretty impressive. It's not just common sense. It's a whole system,
Right. A system designed to protect people.
And speaking of protecting people, the lecture talks about employee rights, specifically the right to know about hazards and the right to refuse unsafe work.
Oh, that's huge. Especially, if you're working somewhere where you might be exposed to electrical hazards. You have the right to know what you're dealing with. Think of it like checking the ingredients on a food label before you buy something.
Makes sense.
You have the right to know. And if something seems off, if it feels unsafe, you have the right to say, no, I'm not doing that.
It's like you're empowered to protect yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Safety first.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Knowing your rights is definitely important, especially when it comes to something as serious as, electrical safety. And speaking of serious, the lecture then gets into what to do if someone gets shocked. And it sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's one of those situations where, knowing what to do can really make a difference.
For sure.
And the first thing they emphasize, this is crucial, do not touch the victim if they're still in contact with the electrical source. You could become a victim yourself.
Okay, that's scary. I never really thought about that. So what should you do if you see someone getting shocked?
Okay, so the key is to act fast, but safely. First, try to de-energize the circuit if possible, like
Yeah.
flip the breaker, unplug the appliance, whatever you can do.
Okay.
Then, if it's safe to do so, remove the victim from the source. But got to use something that doesn't conduct electricity, like a dry piece of wood or a rubber mat, something like that.
Got it. And then call for help, right?
Absolutely. Immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the person seems okay afterwards, electrical shock can cause internal injuries that you might not see right away.
Wow, that's good to know.
Better safe than sorry.
For sure. The lecture also talks about basic first aid while you're waiting for help to arrive. They use this mnemonic ABCD, stands for airway, breathing, circulation, and doctor.
It's a good one. Easy to remember.
It is.
Helps you prioritize, what to do first in an emergency. Check their airway, make sure they're breathing, check for a pulse, and then, of course, get them to a doctor.
Okay, makes sense. This is a lot of good info.
It's good to be prepared.
For sure. Now, the lecture goes on to discuss some real-world case studies. And these are pretty interesting. The first one is about a pole top fire on a power line.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Fire on a power line. But the cause was, unexpected.
It wasn't what you'd think.
Yeah.
Not lightning, not a faulty wire.
Yeah.
It was actually a combination of things.
Yeah.
Dust, salt spray from the ocean, bit of rain, high humidity.
Really?
Yeah, all those things together, they created what's called a leakage current.
A leakage current. Okay, what's that?
Think of it like a leaky faucet.
Right.
Instead of water flowing through the pipes like it's supposed to, some of it drips out.
Right.
In this case, that leakage current, it generated enough heat to ignite the wood and start a fire.
Wow. So dust and humidity can cause a fire on a power line.
In the right conditions, yep.
That's wild. Okay, next case study. This one involves a fallen power pole. Any guesses on what caused this one?
Fallen power pole could be a lot of things.
This one's pretty shocking, literally. The culprit was live termite activity.
Termites.
No way. Yep. They'd eaten away at the pole, weakened it enough to collapse.
Wow. I guess it makes sense they eat wood, but I never would have thought they could take down a whole power pole.
Right. It makes you think about all the things we don't even consider, like hidden vulnerabilities, even in things that seem strong.
It's a good reminder that, safety isn't just about the obvious stuff. It's about the whole system.
Okay, last case study, and this one's a big one. The Fukushima nuclear power plant accident. We all remember that, right? The earthquake and tsunami, it was devastating. But this lecture, it focuses on the electrical safety aspects of it, which I hadn't really thought about before.
It's hard to even grasp the scale of that disaster, 3 reactors melted down, radiation released, hundreds of thousands of people had to evacuate. And even today, it's still a huge challenge.
They sent in a robot to inspect the melted fuel, but it stalled after like 3 hours.
Tough environment.
And apparently, most of the fuel rods in one of the reactors have melted and breached the core. That's just mind-boggling.
It's a massive cleanup effort. Decades of work, billions of dollars.
40 years, they estimate.
Possibly.
It's really sobering. Even with the most advanced technology, things can still go wrong. And the consequences can be huge. It really makes you appreciate the importance of safety at every level.
Absolutely. From individual actions to, the way we design and maintain large-scale systems.
Exactly. Speaking of which, the lecture goes back to those general safety tips we talked about earlier.
Right.
It all starts with knowing what to do in an emergency, which we covered. But then they lay out this 6-step safety method. I think it's worth highlighting.
Oh, definitely. Good stuff.
What's the first step?
Well, first, you got to think, be aware.
Yeah.
Basically, be conscious of your surroundings, the potential hazards. Don't just rush into things.
Okay, makes sense. What's next?
Then it's about understanding and following procedures, using the right safety equipment for the job, and never be afraid to ask questions if you're not sure about something.
I like that. Don't be afraid to ask. Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. And the last step is interesting. Do not answer if you do not know. Sounds obvious, right? But in a safety situation, honesty is crucial. Pretending to know something you don't can have, serious consequences.
That's true. It's better to admit you don't know and ask for help than to risk making a mistake. And that ties back to our earlier point about qualified personnel.
For sure.
If you're dealing with electrical stuff and you're not sure, it's always best to call in a professional, someone who knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. They've got the knowledge and experience to handle it safely. No question.
Okay, so we covered a lot here. From the basics of why electrical safety is important to those pretty intense real-world disasters.
There's a lot to think about.
It really is. What stands out to you from all this? What's resonated the most?
That's a good question.
Hmm.
I think for me, it's the combination of personal responsibility and systemic safeguards.
Okay.
Like, we can all take steps to be safer around electricity in our own lives,
Hmm.
but we also need to rely on well-designed systems,
Yep.
regulations, to protect us on a larger scale. It's a two-pronged approach, and we need both.
That's a good point. It's like we can do our part, but the systems need to be there to back us up.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And it's a reminder that safety is an ongoing process, not a destination. We've got to be constantly learning, adapting, improving our practices to stay ahead of the game.
It's like you can't just learn it once and be done. It's constantly evolving.
For sure.
That's fascinating. Really is. And it makes you realize how much we rely on electricity without even thinking about it.
It's true. It's everywhere.
The invisible force behind our modern world.
It is.
Okay, so before we wrap up, one last question for you. Thinking about all this, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with today?
Big takeaway. I think the most important thing is that electrical safety is multifaceted. It's not just one thing. It's about understanding the hazards, taking precautions, advocating for safe practices, and recognizing those complex systems that are working behind the scenes to keep everything running.
It's not just about avoiding a shock, right? It's about preventing fires, equipment failures, even those large-scale disasters we talked about.
Precisely. It's about fostering a culture of safety that goes beyond just following rules.
A culture of safety, I like that.
It's a mindset, a way of thinking that prioritizes safety in every decision we make.
And that mindset, it can have a ripple effect.
Right.
When we're all aware of the risks and committed to doing things safely, it creates a safer environment for everyone.
Exactly. We all have a role to play.
Well said. So as we wrap up this electrifying deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought, something to ponder. Think about all the hidden electrical systems you rely on every single day. The power grid, traffic lights, medical equipment, even the internet. Do you ever stop to think about what's in place to keep those systems running safely?
It's easy to take it for granted until something goes wrong.
Very true. This deep dive has definitely made me more aware of those hidden systems and the potential risks.
That's what we hope for. Increased awareness.
For sure. Well, we encourage you to explore the resources mentioned in the show notes. Keep learning about this important topic.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to safety.
And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us.